Well, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for switching to Wednesday with me. We kind of checked around. It's hard to switch days when people are used to meeting you on a certain day, but thank you. It's so good on the ministry side, at least. And I think most people, it doesn't make any difference to them Tuesday or Wednesday, but it made a big difference to us because Monday and Tuesday are such great days to do church work and church business and meet in offices. Wednesday's a little late to do church business, so I asked to do that so I can get more done for the kingdom of God. If we did that, thank you, thank you. If your friends don't know, or you've got friends, maybe there's somebody that can do it on Wednesday that couldn't do it on Tuesday, or your friend's saying, "What happened? Where'd he go?" Be sure and let them know Wednesday, and of course, they can always get it at other times during the week. And I appreciate that. So if you just came on, go ahead and say hello to me. So I know the Tuesday folks are making the switch over to Wednesday. So I'll just wait to see if anybody says hi, Zion. If nobody says hi, then we'll know that it didn't quite work and everybody's lost in space. So, oh yeah, good. Well, a couple of people. Well, that's fun. There's Nathan, who's always there, and then there's my brother and my cousin Becky. So got family and workers there. Appreciate you all being loyal today on a Wednesday, and we'll give a few more minutes. There's some more coming in. I see Nancy and Justin and Justin. You know, I said hi to you last time. Hello again, and I don't want to make a big deal about you being around, but I already did last time, saying how great it is to know you're around and you're one of those people that I just always felt like kind of a father figure to you way back when, that. So when you come around, it's like the sun's coming back around again. And I appreciate it so much. And there's anything I can do to reach out or help or be anything to you. I don't know what's going on, but whatever's going on, sure is good to see you again. And yeah, I love you too. And so the more I can do, or the more I can say, love just seeing you around. So this is the Steve and Justin show. So anyway, but all of you, there's Marilyn and Beth and all of you coming on. It's so good to have you. You made it to the Wednesday, and maybe there'll be a few more that make it. Well, today I got the subject of we were soldiers. Justin mentioning your name, you'll pick up on this and how things have changed in the world. And I see Annie's there too. Daniel says so. That's good. And so Justin will see how things have changed in the world as I get this and what the point I'm trying to make. So I called it We Were Soldiers. And one of the reasons I picked up on the scripture here from 2 Timothy, it's a great, great scripture that, in my opinion, is probably lost in most of Christianity today, and how badly we need it back. No one serving as a soldier gets entangled in civilian affairs, but rather tries to please his commanding officer. And Paul writes that to Timothy, and we're supposed to understand that because we still have Army, Marines, Navy, we have the military. And so we're supposed to know that. We're supposed to know people in the military, I guess. And hi, Tina. And we're supposed to know that so that we know that when they go into the military and they serve, that they don't get involved in civilian affairs. And so maybe go off here, go off there. And back then, of course, it was even more strict because they would go off to do things and they didn't have the communication that we have today. They couldn't, you didn't have FaceTime with your friends or your family and in the evening. So it was even more cut off from everybody else. But the main thing is, they said, when you went into it to be a good soldier, you broke civilian affairs. You weren't a civilian anymore. And your goal then was to please your commanding officer. And so he uses that example, of course, to say, this is what it's supposed to be like in the mentality of being a Christian, is you become a Christian because you want to please the commanding officer, which of course is Jesus, our great commanding officer, our great champion, Jesus Christ. So it does have action, but first of all, it's going to have mental change, a mental change, right? That I'm doing this because I want to please somebody else besides myself. There you go. You can already start feeling and knowing that there's where there's Jeremiah. I see you on here from Finland. Hello, good to see you again. you can already see the breakdown. Everybody that's been around church or ministries or whatever, you can see we're going to have problems because people aren't in this to please the Lord. And so when you begin to try to mold a ministry, a church, a movement or whatever, and say, hey, we need to start pleasing the Lord. We want to have whether you call it revival, or we want to have a holiness movement, or we look at our culture today, right? Look at our culture, and hi, Paula, and we start getting concerned, and we say all these things are being thrown at us in our culture, and our children, and our schools, and our government, and all these things. And you say, you know what? We need to get at it. We need to start praying. We need to start getting back to God. You just different phrases we use. We have revival, get back to God. We need holiness. We need the presence of God. We need some strong worship, and just on it goes. And let's meet Tuesday night for prayer. And what do you meet with? What do you hit head on? Well, people agree something needs to be done, but then you can't get anybody to do anything. Why? Because they're not in this to do anything. And you come, and if you could get them to express it, basically they'd say, well, you remember when I joined this church, or you remember when I became a Christian, you remember when you prayed, you said just come as you are, and Jesus accepts you just the way you are, and well, I came as I am. You know what? When I got into this, I didn't get in this to please somebody else. I got into this because I didn't want to go to hell. It was pleasing to me to know I wasn't going to go to hell, that I was going to go to heaven when I died. So I got in this for that reason. And now you're trying to get me to act like a soldier, and to do it to please Jesus, and to die to myself, and to get in it and change the world and change I didn't get in it for that. I remember I had more than one time I had a lady that just happened to be a lady in this situation, but it could be any man or woman. But she got married. She wasn't a Christian, and they got married. I didn't know him, of course, and then came to the church, and our church fired up, and let's go for God, and we're going to church 3 times a week, and we're praying, and we're going, and we're excited about, and everything, and the word, everything with me is about going for God, and of course this lady, she wanted to go for God. And so she'd go home and tell her husband about it, and say, come on, go to church, go for God. She's just gung-ho about everything. And he just wouldn't budge, not interested. And it began to cause tension because she just wanted it so badly, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so it went on and on and on, and they more and more tension and more fighting started breaking out. And finally, they were fighting, and finally he just shut it down. And he said, no more. We're not going to talk about this anymore. And he said, here's the reason why. He said, listen to this. You knew who I was. You knew what I was when you married me. And so now why are you trying to change me? You knew what I was when you married me. Well, that's the truth. And now she's changed, and she wants to change the person that he was. Now, of course, we'd want him to change, and he did make some changes over time. But listen and take that lesson with you into the church now. And our country's in trouble, isn't it? I think we've got people with agendas wanting to change our country, wanting to change the thoughts, wanting to change who we are, wanting to change our children, wanting to change who's in charge of our children. I have no facts on this. I don't know it enough. I have had numerous people. We have Nathan Suchenko's on here. He's originally from Canada, and I've had a Canadian pastor that's been talking to me that's here in the United States living, and they are very, very concerned. He's very, very concerned about going back to Canada because he said the children don't belong to you anymore. The Canadian government is taking over your children. I don't have facts, but that's what he says. And so we have people saying that's what they're trying to do here. And all the agendas and all the things that are going on, And so people are really, really concerned. And I believe the church needs to step in and do what we need to do and change what we need to change back, or hold on to what we need to hold on to. And so there's some big, big things going on in our country right now. And so now we have people saying, we need to do something. We need to arrive. And we're getting nowhere. And all of a sudden, it's like that married couple and that husband saying, hey, you knew what I was when you married me. And so now we're saying, let's go. And people in the church are saying, hey, you knew what I was when I got saved. I didn't get saved saying, hey, let's go for it. I'm so glad I'm saved. Now I'm going to go to the nations. I want to change our country. I want to be the protector of our nation. No, I got saved because I didn't want to go to hell. I wanted to go to heaven. You said, I didn't say it, but you know, all the churches that do say, do you know you'd have a home in heaven if you were to die today? And so get saved so you can know you go to heaven. And they're saying millions and millions of people across our country. That's what they're saying, right? I got saved because I wanted, you said I wanted to go to heaven. You said if I'd get saved, I'd go to heaven. I could have that blessed assurance that I'd go to heaven if I'd die. And so I did it for me. I did it because you said, do you know where you would go? That you didn't want to, I didn't want to go to hell. I wanted to go to heaven. That's why I got saved. I didn't get saved to save a nation. I didn't get saved to save all these children. I didn't get saved to go to war against the devil and pull down principalities and powers and strongholds and have war, prayer walks across the nation, and to be a great worshiper, prayer warrior. I didn't get saved for that. I didn't start believing in Jesus. I believed in Jesus so I could go to heaven when I die. So Lee, you knew what I was when I got saved, when you prayed for me and you promised me a home in heaven. That's millions and millions and millions of believers across our nation and the world. That's why they got born again, for themselves. And Paul's in that same situation, not as bad as we are. No one serving as a soldier gets entangled in civilian affairs, but rather tries to please his commanding officer. And that's where we're falling apart today. We people like me, and probably most of you listening, feel the same way. We cannot figure out what's going on. We can't figure out, where is the church? I asked, who was I talking to? Yeah, the other day. It was a Catholic person, educated. Well, he's a doctor. He's a doctor and he's Catholic, educated, great guy. And I was talking, and he's the one that brought up the condition of our country. And he said, we need somebody to help bring our country back to some morality. He's got 2 kids in high school, public school. And I thought that was so interesting that he could see that. But then so I asked him, I said, well, tell me, when you think of politics, you can name some voices, whether you like them or not, Republican, Democrat, some voices. And when you think of medical, can you think of some medical people who have been voices in our country the last couple of years? Yeah. Then I said, now tell me, who's the voice of religion in our country today? Who's the voice calling us back to God? Who's that voice that says, this is it? What voice? Nothing. I said, I can't think of anybody. And of course, there are people on TV that are preaching like they've always been. But where's the voice of the hour of the time we live in? Not there. He couldn't think of anybody. And that's what I'm saying. There's a void. We've got medical people, we've got politicians, but we don't have anything spiritual going on that's of the voice of the hour we live in, right? And I was when I was in Poland a few weeks ago, and I asked these Ukrainians pastors that I was ministering to that came across the border into Poland, and I said, what do you need? And they said, well, we don't, and they mean this, of course they need it, but they're supplying. They said, well, right now we don't need humanitarian, we don't need food, we don't need those kind. I said, we've got people, and they named who they were. We've got people supplying us with those things, and we've got governments supplying us with weapons. And so we kind of have our needs in that respect. And I'm sure they always can use food and water and all that stuff and weapons, but they said that stuff's coming in. I said, well, then what do you need? You know what they said? They said, we need a voice. We need a voice like Winston Churchill that speaks and draws us in. We need a voice that speaks to our spirits. And I thought, so does America. America needs a voice that speaks to our spirits. And so the problem is, our folks across our country are so entangled in civilian affairs that they don't their goal is not to please the commanding officer. So you can preach it, teach it, preach it. It doesn't matter what church you go to. Basically, you find the same thing. It's just swung so much that you preach and teach, hey, we're not supposed to be entangled in civilian affairs. And you use the phrases, become a living sacrifice, die to self, pick up your cross, all the phrases in the Bible. And people, even if they understand it theologically, they don't want it. They're just that. And you look at them like, what are you thinking? I mean, this is what the Bible says. And you basically get that look like, I'm not in this for that. I did not get in this. I got in this to make me more successful, or, be safe, go to heaven, keep the devil away, prosper me, make more money, whatever. But I got in this for me. I got in this for me. And so that's the problem we have. Well, I mentioned Justin a little bit, because you go back some history with me when we did a lot of projects together. And even in our history together, if we went back 20 years, 15 years, whenever, when we were building buildings and, the Spirit was really moving, and crowds were coming, and we had, at that time when we came to this Kansas City, we didn't have any building. We had no building, we built those buildings and did all the projects. And even then, now things have changed, because I put down there, we were soldiers. And all I had to do then was say, we need to work. People went to work all day. And I said, now we need to show up tonight. We got to put this building up. And I said, so we prayed in the money and we prayed in materials. And now we're going to work all evening into midnight. People worked to midnight. And we'd go to church on church nights and work, or we'd end church and people would go work for a few hours, and they'd work on Saturday, and they'd come, it's just like they worked as those soldiers, because they weren't trying to please me. They were trying to please our commanding officer, Jesus. It's like they had another commanding officer in their life, and they wanted to be a soldier. And nowadays, it's gone. It's just gone through the culture of saying, we need to please our commanding officer. So tonight we need some volunteers. Tonight we need people to do that. And they look at you funny, like, what? What are you talking about? And it's not that they're bad. Nobody's being bad. They're just being honest. They're in life to serve themselves, and it's not computing. And so I know even at our church, we still have servants. We still got great people, some as a throwback to those days. And we've got to, in our church and other churches, we've got to start turning this. If we're going to save the nation, we've got to get the church on fire for Jesus and let him be the commander. But we got to start turning our culture, church culture, back to being servants. Paul would write, he said, Paul, a servant of the Lord. And sometimes it was actually translated a slave, but we can't, culture won't let us use that word anymore. But anyway, a servant of the Lord. And we got to turn that. If we're going to turn our country, we've got to turn it, because this whole culture thing in our country is all self-serving. Zion, I don't know whether I'll bring this up, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. Do you know all this culture shift and all this stuff and the woke stuff and all that and stuff they're teaching our kids and all these things that all the parents and all the culture shift? If you took that, and I've never told anybody this, I'll tell it all at the same time. Okay. And maybe, sure, I don't know, you can always edit it out to the people that are going to watch it later. But if you took all this that's going on in culture and everything and narrowed it down to what's really going on, you can say what's really the drive is in one word and 3 letters. You know what it is? Sex. Transgender, and who am I? My identity, homosexuality, who my partner is with. I'm going to be with that partner. Who am I supposed to? Who's my? Narrow it all down, right? Pornography, all the things that we blank out, like, well, it's just, we want freedom, and it's all about freedom and identity and emotionalism and all that. No, it's not. It's not. And I'm not saying it, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, let's be honest about it. it's all about people want to do sex the way they want to do it. They want to watch it, they want to do it, they want to feel it, and God's created sex, and he wants to have it, and he's not taking it away. He says do it this way. But really, I mean, I've hesitated to say it, but you you turn on the TV, and you got barely have regular relationships on TV, and then you've got the men with the men and the women and everything and all that, and then you've got the agenda and these school teachers that are teaching all this stuff in the schools and all that, and you go like, why to kindergartners or whatever. But it's not about educating them, and it's not about this and not about that, and everything that's doing is on the subject. When you tear away the curtain, it's all about sex in one way or another. And nobody says that, but the subject is, I want to have sex my way, and I want to teach kids to have sex the way and they're all teaching about, and God invented it. So it's not that we can't talk about it, but what the heck, I mean, that's the spirit behind all this is sexual drives, boy, girl, teach it, talk about it, write books about it, who we're going to be, my identity, and all that kind of stuff. And so I've never told anybody that, and you can disagree with it, but it's okay. Identity, sex, right? Who am I going to live with? Oh, I just feel like I should be with men. I should be with women. I should be this. I don't know who I am on the inside. Yeah, but at the end of the day, who you're going to be and your identity, you're going to go home and get in bed with somebody, right? And that's what you're saying. I want to go be in bed with that person, this person, that kind of, really. And so I'm not arguing that bad, good. I'm not. That's not who I am. And you know what? I want to do? I want to have a move of God across this country. We call it revival or whatever. But you know what? If I can do this, if I get a chance, and I'm praying and praying and praying and working, if I get a chance and I can do what I want to do, I'm not even going to address that. Everybody wants me to address it and you to address it. I'm not even going to address it. I don't care who's out there. I don't care about their lifestyle. I don't care who they're sleeping with. You know why? Because that's none of my business. You know what my business is? My business is connecting people with the power of God. All I want to do is stretch out my hand and point to them and say, have you ever been touched by the very hand of God? I don't care how you're dressing. You can dress like a woman, dress like a man. You can be one and change over and have to operate. I don't care. I don't care how you're feeling. Well, I feel like a man, feel like a woman. I think we should teach this. I don't care. You know why? Because until you've been touched by the very hand of God, you don't know how you feel. You don't know who you want to be. You don't know what you want to be. You don't know what you want to do. You could be Paul going on the road to Damascus and say, I'm going to go kill Christians. I'm going to throw them in jail. And if I don't kill them, I'm going to let somebody else kill them. I'm going to starve them, kill them, burn them. You could be Paul, who was Saul. I'm going to go kill Christians. Bang! You get touched by the power of God and say, all of a sudden, I don't know what's happened to me. I want to preach to the world that Jesus Christ is Lord. Well, what happened? See? So it doesn't do any good to say you're going to hell and you shouldn't do that and get out of bed with that person and get in bed with it. I'm not even going to touch it. I just want people to get in touch with God. And I'm going to that's what I'm going to push. I'm not going to tell them they're sinners and you're changed. What good would it do? I'm going over my time with you, right? But what good would it do to tell somebody who you believe is going to hell that stop sleeping with that person? Well, if you think they're going to hell anyway, why changing bed partners going to make any difference? You want to get them in touch with God so they make a decision of their life, and so they change commanding officers from the devil to Jesus, and then let them decide and choose life. If they choose death, then they've made a decision, but they made a decision based on knowing who the other commanding officer. They've made a good decision based on with the power to make a decision. Make a wrong decision, okay, they did it, but people are not able to make a fair decision about themselves till the church has opened the airwaves with the clean airwaves so they get a chance. They're blinded. Of course, they're making me decisions. They're making it, but so is the church. See, the church is doing the same thing. You can't get people to, they don't want to show up at church. They want a short service. They want to get in, get out. Why? Because it's all about them. It's a me generation. You go out of church, you go to these other people and they go, I don't want to hear about God. I don't want to hear about morality. I want to live. It's the same spirit inside the church and outside of the church. They don't want a commanding officer. They don't want to please anybody but themselves. So we got to first start with the church. Get them off of that and on to Jesus, on to the commanding officer. And then we take it out to the streets, out to the world, and quit talking about, get out of bed with that one and get in bed with that, and then that'll change. That's not going to change anything. Get them into the presence of God. Get them into the presence of God. Then let them make a spiritual choice. Whatever choice they make then is their business, but we need to open the heavens so they can make the right choice and say, choose this day who you're going to serve. Choose life. Then they got a real choice. So we need to start with us. We need to become soldiers of the living God and choose and make Jesus our commanding officer. You think that's worth something today? That's worth lunchtime on Wednesday. Yeah. And if you've got friends that normally don't listen, this might be worth listening to. Don't have somebody tell you, well, he's preaching against that lifestyle or that. No. I told you, I'm not against anything. I'm not an against person. I am a for person. I'm not against any group. I am for God, and I just want them to meet him in his fullness. Then it's their decision. That's what I'm saying. Good talking to you. Just let's all get on fire with this today. All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.